Welcome to Buckets. The Patriots suck ass. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm joined by the future Jays, Jim Turvey at Turvey Bets, and Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera. Coming to you after the Super Bowl has ended. NFL season is over. And that means time to get buckets. We got your best bets for the Monday slate in the association as we head into the All-Star break. By the way, the NBA should really not be like, football's over. Come watch us now. Here's the All-Star game. So bad. Please fix your planning. Please fix your planning. Jim Turvey's at Turvey Bats. He's at Roto Grinders. You can catch his work there throughout the week. Jim, what sports do you do for Roto Grinders besides the NBA?
Right now, it's just NBA, and then in the summer, I do MLB and WNBA.
Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera is host of the Catch That podcast. You can catch that as well. He's got like 17 million entry points to his content, and you can find it all at Joe Dellera as our esteemed producer David Payne continues to try to get him to adopt the moniker Joe the Ladder, which I would very much enjoy because I think that's hilarious.
Gotta start betting more of them.
So we are gonna do that. We're gonna have a wide ranging conversation on futures tonight because we're heading into the All-Star break. Trade deadline's over. So there's a little less uncertainty in the market. We want to take a look at some things. Jim did a lot of research and like had a whole bunch of stuff, and I was very excited. And Jim always wants me to have more preparation and map things out. So I sat down, I took his information, I did more research, and I mapped out this entire show. And then Jim didn't read any of it because he was busy hosting a Super Bowl party for the worst Super Bowl in NFL history that everyone knew would be the worst Super Bowl in NFL history. But it's still gonna be great. We got a lot of content for you as well here tonight. Everything we talk about can be forwarded in the award-winning Action Network app. It's the best way for you to track your picks. You get up to second information with the bets and money are coming in. And you can sign up for Action Pro and get stuff like Brandon Anderson, who hit 70-1 on the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl, 50-1 Matt Stafford to win MVP. This is Brandon's dream week. You want to get in on his futures. You want to get on Sean Kerner's props. You want to get on Nick Giffin's prop. Nick had a live prop that he put in at halftime on what happens live in our Discord. It hit. Absolutely amazing. Use promo code POD20 for $20 off an annual subscription of Action Pro. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro. Let's start here. There's so many places we could start, but I want to start with the MVP because I think this is interesting. So what I did was I have a little system that I put together that tracks all of the odds and gives us week by week information. Every Sunday it spits out and says, here's what the odds were at this date so that we can actually compare on a time basis. And so what we're really able to do is we're able to look at where were things a week ago before the trade deadline and where are they now. But one of the most interesting ones has nothing to do with the trade deadline, and it does have to do with an injury status because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to miss a couple of weeks with an injury. And so as a result, though, very surprisingly, I was not expecting much movement on this because Shai's probably going to be back in time. This has moved down from minus 365 to minus 210 at BetMGM. He's out until probably after All-Star. They're probably going to hold him out. He's missed 4 games right now. There's 3 more games before All-Star. That's going to be 7. The rest of the way, they have 5 back-to-backs. How many is he going to play? We don't know. If he misses all of them, he's at 12. So he's still going to have 6 games left before he's ineligible for season awards, which is pretty much the only way I would have thought that he was going to miss this. However, Jim Turvey, here's where it gets kind of interesting. Nikola Jokic has missed 16 games. He's got 2 left. That's all he can miss, and then he is also out of the running. There are 5 more back-to-backs. He can only miss 2. What's interesting, though, is if Jokic slides over 65, Shai misses all 5 back-to-backs coming up after missing the rest until after All-Star. That's 13 missed games. He would play 69 games versus Jokic 65. I have been operating on the assumption that Shai would be somewhere in the high 70s, that it would be like, oh, Shai played 78 games, Jokic played 65. And no matter how much better Jokic was, you can't make up that differential. That availability, that number of games is too high. But if this slides into Shai plays 70 or less and Jokic plays 65, now all of a sudden, I don't know, but we are getting a discount price on Shai here as well. What's your read on the situation?
And you'll also be getting kind of the order of the injuries, right? Jokic had his injury, came back, and it's going to be Shai whose injury and missing time is more front of mind. So you could almost even that might be worth like a game worth of just like recency bias. And then there's the fact, we talked about it on the pod here, if we're wondering if the Thunder are going to be the top seed in the West, they lost these first 2 games without Shea. In general, they've been like, a good, not great team since their incredible start. They have a tough schedule down the stretch. Now, so the Nuggets also have a tough schedule. They're pretty far behind at this point. But if we're talking about like a 4 to 5 win gap, a 4 to 5 games played gap, and then the advanced stats as is, I do think Shea should be the favorite. Now, I think the market annoyingly is priced pretty accurate because I do think, we have a path to, Jokic could miss a couple games and then that takes him out of it. And then it's really hard. I see someone commented, Luka's not winning MVP. The Lakers are not that good. Luka has not been playing at the level of those guys. Luka has missed games. Luka's currently hurt. I don't really see any path. I think if anything, I want like a Wemby because I think this at a really long number, I think Spurs have a chance to be the team that could overtake the Thunder in the West. It gets into silly season if Shea misses, a lot of games. Like if we come back from All-Star break and he's not playing that first game, I think we're kind of seeing this as like the Thunder being like, okay, that hammy's a little tight. Like let's really have you, well rested to come back after the All-Star break. But if it's a little bit more than that, it gets a silly season really quick. I think the market's right now. I think Shea should be the favorite. I still think that he will be back after the All-Star break. The Thunder are the most likely team to finish with the 1 seed. He's likely to be in kind of the low 70s, I think, for games played. But there's a lot of ways that this can get really weird really fast.
I don't know. I think that we're assuming, right? Like if the argument that Matt kind of pitched, it assumes that he misses basically as many games as like possible almost, like under the current construct. And honestly, I think the point about the record that you were kind of bringing up, Jim, in terms of Oklahoma City, kind of lends itself to say, I don't know if they're good enough right now to just have that luxury of not playing him as much as you need to, because they're only 3 games up in the loss column on the Spurs, who have just been absolutely rolling. And the Spurs are also like another team, very young. They keep getting better. Like they just keep getting better. And the Spurs were dealing with a variety of different injuries to start the season. So I don't know to what extent Oklahoma City can really afford to necessarily sit Shea out every back-to-back going down the stretch. The other thing is, I think that this, and I'm like kind of guessing a little bit here, but I think that this injury and like a lot of these injuries that are popping up before the All-Star break are just, we're going to just keep you out because we can basically give you an extra week for free because of the All-Star break. And we also don't really want you playing in the All-Star game. Here's the ticket to not do that. So like, I do think there's maybe like a little bit more of that as opposed to this is a serious injury. It's like, we can functionally give you a 2.5 week vacation in the middle of the season, be ready for the rest of the year. And like, that's more the way that I kind of read it. The thing with Jokic, as good as he is, I think that Denver, and Matt, you're obviously on the pulse of Denver more, but to me, it feels more like they know that what they have is really good, but they also know that they just need to be healthy getting into the postseason, and then they'll just win. But I don't know. Like maybe
so here's the problem is they know that, but like their players don't really care what they think. A good note of this is like Aaron Gordon got hurt twice on the second night of a back-to-back. He played in both those games and got hurt twice. Peyton Watson, who has had to take on an incredible load offensively, given how young he is, hurt his hamstring on the second night of a back-to-back.
No, it's
Jamal
insane
Murray,
what they're doing. Yeah.
Jamal Murray has played on the second night of a back-to-back. Joker just got back from a knee sprain and played on the second night of a back-to-back. These guys will not listen and sit.
Yeah.
They just keep playing through it. And it's insane. And the problem is it compounds itself because here's what happens. Joker's out. Oh, well, I got to play. Joker's out. So I got to, I got to play because big fella's out. I got to be there for him. Then Joker's in. Oh, well, if Joker's playing, I'm playing. Doesn't matter how hurt I am. I'm playing. If Joker's playing, I'm playing. Whoops.
Like, I mean, it was nuts. Like the game that they lost against the Knicks, they could have just said, we're just not going to really try. Like, we're just not going to try here. The Knicks are a good team. Like, punt it. They wind up playing into fucking overtime, and then Jokic goes way beyond whatever minutes limit he had, and you lose. And you lose.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it makes no sense.
They lost 3 ways in that game.
Yeah.
They somehow lost 3 times in one game.
Yeah.
So I think that interesting question is like, okay, with Joker, and I do think there are mixed answers. If you ask anybody, the official line from everybody is like, come on, Joker doesn't care about awards. Then there are people that are like a little bit more honest on the periphery whose opinion is like, he cares a little.
Yeah.
And he's a little annoyed about last year when he thought that he played one of the best seasons of his career and Shea won it. Here's the deal. Minus 210, 67% implied. This is really the question. Are the odds? This is a multi-layered question. 67% for Shea assumes that he plays enough games more than you. Because Jim, I do want to ask you this. Well, Joe, actually, I'll ask you this. If the gap between these two is less than 6 games, I personally am like, how the hell are you going to vote for anybody but Nikola Jokic? Look at the numbers. There's no way to do it. I just don't think you can do it. I don't care. I love EPM. You can't. You can't.
I think only way you could, I'm not sure what the schedule is this year, but I know that they still have 3 more games head to head left.
Yep.
That and I think one of them, I'm just kind of skimming right now. One of them's in March. Another one. Oh, well, here's the problem. There's an April 10th game that's between these 2 teams.
Right.
And you already know how that can go. It's so stupid, but it's just, especially if it's an important
Shea won round 1 convincingly. He was the best player on the floor by far.
Yeah. So it's I know they play
out of mind at this point.
Mm-hmm. So they have a February 27, a February 27 in Oklahoma City, March 9th in Oklahoma City, and then they have April 10 in Denver. And presumably, if Oklahoma City's rolling, that game probably doesn't mean anything to them.
But are they going to be rolling? They're they
don't, at that point, there's only 1 game left in the season. So it's they might just be ahead enough that it doesn't matter. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's they might, even if they're not rolling, but if they have enough of a lead,
I almost feel like that though doesn't hurt Shea. The fully we didn't even try. It's what you don't want is to be trying and lose.
Yes, I agree. So it's the games that they've got are soon, and they're both in Oklahoma City, and Shea already won the first one in Denver. If they're at that point of the season too, where your MVP candidate can sit because you locked up the 1 seed, that feels more compelling. It's not as much of the Embiid ducking fit conversation because they only play once a year or twice a year, in the middle of the season. They're not usually stacked at the end of the year. Here it's well, I don't know.
It does kill me that the Nuggets doing well without Jokic is going to stick with some voters. It really shouldn't, but it will.
And Thunder 0-2 with Shea.
That's that's one that I really just want to get them in a room and be let's really logic this out, guys.
They won those games despite him being out.
Yeah, they beat the Celtics and Sixers on the road, and they beat the Sixers with no starters playing. Do you really want to index on those games? Somebody asked this in the chat, and I do think it's an interesting one. Look, 67%. I think a good question is does the 67% implied for Shea? Does it? Let's remove Joker from the conversation, which I don't think you can, but let's remove him from the conversation. And let's go to just, is 67% implied the odds of him going over 65 games played and being eligible? Because you mentioned the win-losses with the Spurs. Guess who's tied in the loss column with the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Yeah.
The Detroit Pistons.
Now, Cade is... I haven't looked. I can look right now. He's a far shout, statistically, right?
Yeah, he doesn't get there on any of the metrics.
I just don't think anybody cares. Nobody cares what Detroit's doing because they're just oh, it's these.
All right. This is a Knicks pod talk, and that's cute. But
no, but I mean, it's the same thing. I would say basically the same thing if it was Brunson. Like if the Knicks were the 1 seed, like nobody cares. It's the East is just not as good as the West is.
That's
right
interesting.
Now.
You don't think any Eastern Conference player can win MVP?
No, unless like everybody in the Western Conference dies. Like I think you need like everybody in the West to be able to.
Joker, let's say Joker. This is a far cry, right?
Yeah.
Let's say Joker's ineligible and Shea's ineligible.
I think that people would try to give it to Luka, and they would try to give it to Wemby. And then I think you start looking at
we would have an extremely split vote. That's what we would have.
I think it depends on the way the standings kind of shake out. But like that, I think then you would have whoever was the 1 seed in the East, people might coalesce around their star. Yeah. But even then, I think you're going to get the Boston media is going to push Jaylen Brown, and then the New York media is going to push Brunson, and you're going to have more of a split because neither is going to be like, oh, it should be your guy. They're going to say, well, like our cases are all the same. Like it should be our guy.
This is like, I feel like this is like in Jurassic Park where Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum's character, is going over the sequence. God creates man. God creates dinosaurs. God destroys dinosaurs. God creates man. Man destroys God. And then at the end of it is like, dinosaur eats man. LaMelo Ball wins MVP. That's like,
it's right there. It's right there.
The end result of this. But I really wish the markets would open. I'm hoping they do after All-Star break for All NBA, by the way, because this is just a random aside. I will bet Jamal Murray high for All NBA. I think Jamal Murray has legitimately been the 9th best player in the NBA this season. So, all right, interesting. So I don't think we have a bet there. Jim thinks the market is priced appropriately. I think there's probably a little bit of value on Shea because you're getting a discount. Like if you haven't gotten in on Shea yet, and like you took long shots, I don't think this is a bad place to hedge out.
What I would do, I don't think it's going to move between now and All-Star. In fact, if anything, it might get a little bit shorter even, and then see him come back for that first game. Because I agree that I think that's what they're doing, but I just really want to see it and then make the move.
Yeah. Okay. And now it is time for getting there. Waiting, trying to find my thing. There we go.
Jim Turvey's House of Intrigue.
Every week, Jim Turvey has talked about how he's like, I'm intrigued by this. I'm intrigued by that. You know who's got me intrigued? And so I think we're just going to have this as a recurring segment of Jim Turvey's House of Intrigue. And this week's House of Intrigue involves tanking, which I have been making lots of new friends in Utah about on Twitter. Jim, you gave me a number of teams that based off of the information you think there's value on. Why don't you set up kind of what the research that you kind of singled down, and then we'll kind of talk about the methodology here.
Yeah, I picked out 6 teams that to me very specifically are like the big tankers in the NBA the rest of the season here. And I think that one comes with a bullet. I think the Washington Wizards are really the worst team and clearly leaning into the tank. The second to me on that list, get this up here. Second on that list being the Pacers. You talked about right after the deadline. You got the under on the alt win total. I think they're very content to be losing. They have to lose to keep that pick they just sent out. 3 is the Nets. They're kind of in the tier of just like very bad, but like aren't doing some of the shenanigans we see the other teams do. 4 is the Kings. They're starting to play their young players, which is like a theoretical sign that they're tanking, but their young players are actually kind of fun. We'll talk about them in a minute. The Grizzlies, I think, are the sneaky team here in that they are really kind of pulling the plug, it looks like. They might even end up as like the 3rd best team to hit up in these tank offs. And then the Jazz are here as like a who the hell knows. I'm convinced that we were talking about them. The 3 of us are talking about them. There's like a theory in poker nowadays that like because the poker is like, optimal play has been solved that like if you go in with a random number generator, you can actually like that's like the better play for poker because it's like it's a game where there's people reading and stuff. I think the Jazz are using a random number generator to make decisions on like how like minutes and when to play guys and stuff because there's no rhyme or reason. I think that's very purposeful. They're trying to throw off the NBA in terms of being able to find them and stuff because they know they have like Sauron's eye on them. And so they're doing stuff where they will play guys 30 minutes some nights and win a game. And then other nights they'll take them out in the fourth quarter, and then they'll do injury stuff. But then the guys are back. You just can't follow this team. But I do think that they belong in the mix of, if we're looking at 6 teams that you want on your schedule down the stretch, they do belong there. So what I did was, do you want to hop in real quick before I say what I did, Matt?
A couple things on the Wizards, who I understand where you're coming from. I will say that they sat everybody yesterday or the previous game because it's clear, like the Nets game was a high leverage tank point. They did start like Keyshawn George and folks versus the Heat today. They just played an all bench lineup in the second quarter. That probably
they've been doing that a couple games because their live unders aren't bad. Like they'll start those guys and then they'll bench them.
I don't have a clear identity of like, the only thing I'm not trying to do, this is not copium for my Wizards bets. I will just say I'm not entirely sure that Washington is going to hard tank the rest of the way versus Utah has done some absolutely reprehensible stuff.
Well, Utah's roster is like 10 times better than Washington.
Yes, that's the thing. A lot of the argument that I've been gotten into is I'm just trying to explain, like, you guys could win games, and you have the good players that could help you win the game active, and then sometimes play them and then decrease as the game goes on. That is where I'm like, come on, man. Like, there's no transparency here.
The Utah stuff is ridiculous. I mean, they were beating Orlando.
Yeah.
Like significantly in the third quarter. The three of their, like the 3 guys, what was it? Jaren, Laurie, and I forget who the other one was. Like, they were crushing. And then they're just like, yeah, we're not going to play them in the entire fourth quarter. Like, there's nothing that you can tell me out of Utah that says like, this is above board. There's just nothing you could tell me there. Like, that seemed like a game that they were basically saying, we're going to play everybody because we think we're going to lose anyway. And they forgot that the Magic still kind of suck. And then they were like, oh, wait, we might actually win this game. And they're like, nope, not anymore. Like, we're just going to pull it.
A sneaky big thing there is that Keontae George got hurt at half. And I think that might've been like, okay, now we're pulling the plug. Like, I think they might've been like, okay, like we'll try with this squad. That was my read because I did projections for them that day. And I projected them to kind of like be trying minutes wise. And then I think Keontae got hurt and they said, if he's going to be missing games, we're not going to be quite good enough to push. What are we even pushing for? Let's tank it down.
Yeah. And I think I saw something, I don't remember how exactly it was worded, but it was something about how if teams like mess with the minutes of players in games that it affects the outcome of the game. I think I can try to find it while we're talking, but there's some verbiage, I think, in the rules that talks about the teams aren't supposed to do that, which is basically exactly what Utah did. And I don't know how you get around. I just don't know how you get around it, honestly.
I think you get around it because then sometimes you do the other. That's what I'm avoiding Utah bets like the play right now because they're not making sense, and I think it's purposeful.
I asked Jim for what did he think that teams with a winning percentage of less than 30% after the All-Star break versus teams with better than 30, better than 40, better than 50, better than 60, and better than 70%. How often did they win?
Oh, by the way, I did misread that. I thought you were saying less than 30, less than 40, less. I thought we were going the other direction, but
okay. So I will not even include your comment. So I was just kind of share this with you. Better than 30%, these teams only win 27% of the time. It actually goes down for better than 40% to 24%, then 21% for 50%. So over 500, they win 21% of the time. Those teams below 30% win percentage. You get above 60, it goes down to 22, and then above 70%, even though they are 54% against the spread, they are 18% straight up. The reason I bring up these numbers, and that's a lot of numbers, the core that I'm trying to get to here is there is an idea. The way that we handicap these things, Jim, and this is where I get nervous, is we act like the winning probability is 0. Especially when we're talking about a limited number, right? So you're going to talk about these teams and you're going to be like, well, they play all these teams X amount of times. I'm like, yeah, but based off of the data that we have, if they play those teams 10 times, those teams are still going to win between 2 and 3 times, depending on how good they are. So it's that win probability. I just want to guard against the idea of, well, they're playing all these tanking teams, because I see tanking teams win random ass games in March all the time. They're not going to win most of them. They're going to lose almost all of them, but they are going to win a few in there. And I think that distinction is important when we start talking about these things.
No, for sure. This is more, it's at the margins, right? All these things are at the margins. It's all implied probabilities, like you said, but you'd rather be playing these bad teams that are trying to lose, even though they will win every 1 in every 5 games. It's better than playing teams that are going to win 50-50. So make the case against that sentence.
So my case against that sentence is that, to me, it depends entirely on what your win profile is. So why don't we start with Portland? Because Portland's actually the best argument to have about this. Give me your take for Portland.
Yeah, so highlighted here, so a few teams that were kind of like winners and losers from who gets to play the tanking teams the most down the stretch. Portland,
Miami,
Miami,
the Cavaliers.
Yep.
The Celtics. No, the Celtics are the opposite.
Celtics are the opposite. I'm trying to find where I put all these direct notes now. Apologies. And then on the flip side of things, it's the Wolves, and then there were 2 other teams that I don't think scooted in here. But anyway, let's start with Portland, because you're right. I do think they're a really interesting team to talk about, because they have had a really hard schedule and they've done good against the bad teams and struggled against the good teams, and now they get to play those bad teams. So I want to hear your case against Portland, I'm guessing.
I am putting your notes into here because I actually read your notes, because I have respect for you. So here's the interesting one. Portland against bottom 10 teams in point differential. This is via Cleaning the Glass. Are 9-4. That is poor. Like 9-4 versus the worst teams is not impressive. And they're 22nd in point differential. This has been a spot for me all year. There are certain teams that I want to bet on against that are good against bad teams. And I don't think Portland's good, but like I want to bet against them against the bad teams and bet on them against the good teams. Portland's an awesome versus the top 10 teams. They're great to bet against the spread when they're facing a team with a pulse, but they're inconsistent. They're inherently inconsistent. Now they're still 9-4, but that margin I don't think is high enough to be able to get us to a comfortable place in terms of being able to beat the market with that edge. The other thing to keep in mind with Portland, this is a huge number. So the way I have come to look at the schedule is entirely different from how most people do. A normal way to look at any schedule for a sports team is, who do they play and how good are those teams? Oh, they play a bunch of bad teams. They will win. They play a bunch of good teams. They will lose. I look at it entirely from density, schedule, and travel, because covering this league for long enough, I know that it doesn't really matter how good the opponent is. If you're playing a crap team, a middle crap team, not necessarily these teams, because this is the point. This is where it gets tough. Like, it is close, but like if you're playing a bad team, but it's a 3rd and 4, and you got into the hotel at 3 a.m. and you're on a 3rd and 4, 5 and 7, and you got a bunch of guys that are banged up, and you're dealing with a shoulder and all of this stuff, and you're just like exhausted, doesn't really matter. It doesn't help you. Portland's schedule is mostly okay, but there is a warning point. They travel the most miles in the league after All-Star by a wide margin, and more time on planes.
They always travel the most, right?
Do what?
They always travel the most, right? Because they're
I think who is it? It's either Denver or somebody else. But even then, there's different points in the season where Portland doesn't have the highest travel differential. But here they do by an even wider margin than normal. They have 6 rest advantage games and only 2 rested disadvantage games. So that's really good. But they're only 4 and 7 straight up when they have rest advantage. So like they haven't been able to transfer these things into actual wins when they have rest advantage. These are all my kind of points of trying to put context on it. But I get where you're coming from, because you're just like, yeah, but like, all right, they struggled early in the season when these teams were actually trying, but these teams are actively not trying. And I don't really have an answer there.
Well, and here's the thing. I found my notes. Apologies for being a little scattered there. But for Portland, I didn't end up coming out with a bet, in part because of some of that, and because we don't know about this Denny thing. We're not going to touch on MIP today, but like that back is starting to look pretty. Like he came back for 2 games and had to leave again. That is very troubling. And if they don't have Denny, like I don't want to be betting this team. To me, a more interesting team is Miami. I would love to chat about Miami because they're one of the ones who I did, against my better judgment, have a bet coming out of this on, but it looks like you're on the flip side of this as well.
Yeah. So the market here at Kalshi, we've got 45 cents. 45 plus wins is 41 cents. That's the one that Jim kind of wants. He wants to go over because of how weak their upcoming schedule is. You can talk about that for a minute, Jim.
Well, my bet would be division. And I know this is like people can dig chasing or whatever, because I did Orlando at the beginning of the season. We did Charlotte a couple of weeks ago. We've skipped Atlanta, which was good. That doesn't look like they're going to win the division. But Miami right now is plus 240 to win the division. I think that's a pretty interesting bet. Down the stretch, they have the easiest schedule remaining. They play 9 of these tanking teams. They play, including today, I guess, the Wizards 4 times. I know you think the Wizards are, maybe not at the bottom of that. I have the Wizards as the bottom of that tier. I think getting 4 games against the Wizards, I mean, we saw what happened today. It was like a 40-point win. It's not indicative of it's not locked to go 4-0, but these are margins that I do think are important. They get 9 games against those tanking 6, 5 of those at home. It's just a very friendly schedule at the margins. Now, Orlando has a pretty friendly schedule as well. But I think that this, for me, is like, if I'm looking at this, I'm holding my Orlando ticket. I don't mind grabbing this plus 240 on Miami to win the division when it's pretty close as is. It's a buy low spot, and I think a lot of people saw them as a loser of the trade deadline, but they really kind of just stayed the same. And Orlando was another team that basically did nothing. I think we love that Charlotte number. That Charlotte number has already shrunk. They'll have a kind of a big test tomorrow. If they can beat Detroit, this is going to get real interesting here. But Miami's a team. Give me something to talk about them against how they do against bottom tier teams, because I'd be curious. Do they profile as a team that can take out and make use of this softer schedule?
Yeah, so they're 16th in win percentage versus those bottom 10 teams. 16th in win percentage and ATS differential. They're plus 2.9 in spread diff. So what this actually means is, like, when they do handle business, they absolutely kill them.
Which
is most of the time, it's kind of mixed results. Most of my stuff is just built off of, I projected, like, I have them projected at 42.8, and I was super high on them to open the year. We're going to cash on the win total over, which was a breeze. That's going to be great. But this is, to me, is now a time to kind of go back the other way, where it's like they did a lot of their work early. And the bigger problem is just like, Noah LaRoche makes everyone hate themselves by January. Just like Noah LaRoche, their assistant coach who's running their offense, everyone just wants to die because you're running up and down the floor all the time so fast. They have a lot of interior tension because, they didn't make the trade for Giannis. They couldn't make the trade. Khalil Ware is still in and out in terms of the doghouse, and they don't have like a consistent kind of sense of who's in, who's out. Jovic went from a DNP to starting. Yeah. Like they're all over the place with where they want to be with this roster. And you throw in on top of that Hero's continued injury problems. And I know that, like, Brian Fonseca would be like, that's good for them. Like, I need the salary on the floor.
It's like dead money. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my biggest thing is I don't want to equate players to cash value. To me, it's more of, you have spent X amount of your available resources on this player because you thought that he was going to provide you with that impact or production. And if he is not available, that's just empty. It's just not there. It's like a dead cap space. It's just like you have less value on the floor because you allocated resources, including a roster spot and minutes that you were expecting, to something that isn't there.
So if you were sitting on Orlando preseason division, picked up Charlotte a week or two ago, would you touch Miami, or are you just like, I'll ride those two, Orlando and Charlotte?
It's so tough.
At plus 240-ish.
It's so tough. I don't know, and I just want to be honest and say I don't know and not make up an answer here. And the reason is Charlotte is the kind of team that I have a really hard time with, because any team that is this hot, every part of my being is like, this is going to crash. Like, there is a crater and a correction at some point. And you remember when Charlotte was like the best team in the league for like 2 months? That was crazy. So anyway, they're 500, right? 500 might win this division.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Right? But more of like they're back to playing 500 ball over X amount of weeks, right? I don't trust Orlando.
That's That's the
I mean,
thing.
because the thing is, too, they're going to get Franz back, presumably, but then that's always a reintegration process. And they weren't good at the beginning of the year when everyone was healthy. So, like, obviously now Anthony Black has really stepped forward. But at the same time, it's like you have all these guys that kind of need the ball. Like you're really running into an only one ball situation but you have a team that has like really like 5 dudes that need the ball because they all kind of do slightly different things. So I don't know. I'm always a little bit of a Orlando hater, and I think I've been consistent in this, but I don't know. They should in theory have the most runway because they have the most talent, I think.
Yeah. I bought No at a bad price for them at 52 cents for 45 plus wins a few weeks ago. And that's like, I'm locked in between their preseason opener line was like 36 and 45. So I've got like a 9-win middle window, which I feel pretty good about. Division, I don't have a clear answer right now because it's just like, I think Miami's floor is probably higher than the other two. I think Orlando's ceiling is higher, but they have not been able to find it. They just don't have it this year. They do not like, I can't even get it's usually I would want Orlando's floor where it's like, well, look, they may not be great, but they'll be pretty good. And now I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. Like Orlando, there's a lot of nights where it's just like, they're bad. They're just bad a lot of nights. Miami is very rarely bad. If they are bad, it's because they are outmatched, like versus Boston, where it's just like, they can't compete with that team. And what you're saying is that the schedule is kind of helpful to a team that's got a high floor. And they're middle of the range between these teams. But I will say they are not a team that will screw around and lose to a tank job like today. Like they will do enough to get past a Washington team. So I get the concept there. And hey, look, I like portfolio plays. You're not going to find me as long as you come out ahead. I'm fine with the portfolio play. Talk to me about Cavaliers.
Yeah, Cleveland, we don't have a ton, we don't have to do a ton here, but they pop as well as, they've got 7 versus tanking teams, 2 against Washington, top 5 easiest schedule on Reference and Tankathon. We got to see what Harden looked like. We'll be talking props in a little bit. I thought Jarrett Allen looked great. That connection looked really good right off the bat. Yeah. I think they're a team you almost want to play the ceiling more. The market's just kind of all over it, though. You've got here, Kalshi 50 plus wins. Yes, 75 cents. That's the market's in. The market is saying like we believe in this Cleveland team. Maybe there's some schedule stuff here as well that the market is in on. I just thought they're a winner of it. There just isn't a great way to bet it, in my opinion. But I think they could go on a run here. I just don't think. I think the market realizes that.
Yeah, I get it, but actually, this minus 300, I don't really care. Like, I think that's a good price.
Yeah.
Like, I think that they should be higher than that. Like, I've got them projected way higher than that. The Harden thing, I don't think disrupts their floor at all.
I think it raises the floor, if anything. I mean, like Garland's always out.
Yeah.
And if Donovan misses time, I would much rather. I think I would way more trust Harden to run an offense than Garland by himself with the way his health had been. Like you put Harden there, you're going to play at minimum 500 ball. Like he's just like such a high floor raiser and everybody's going to touch the ball. Everybody's going to eat. So I think their floor is much higher now with Harden.
You've got Wolves on here. I want to kind of like cut that one. We'll cut that one because I just want to say today's a great example. They're at home versus the Clippers, who have had all this trade stuff, and they get stomped. They were the hottest team in basketball 2 weeks ago. Now they're the most miserable team in basketball. They're going to be fine. They're going to pull out of it. But like, there's no floor on Minnesota. There's just not. They don't. That's what cost them a top 3 seed in the last 2 seasons. Is they do not care enough. Like, and people will point that to that being coaching. That's actually that's an Ant problem.
And I actually was looking at them as a loser and looking at them as like not a top 5 seed and maybe framing that in a way that like if they might not mind being that 6 seed and avoiding, the Thunder in the second round and trying to sneak their way through the playoffs that way.
I think when we start getting, the problem is when we start getting you, because you were kind of talking about betting them as a specific 6. Once we get into that, now you're in my territory of like tiebreaker.
Yeah, there's just
it gets so
gross.
complicated.
Yeah.
Boston is the last one I want to talk about.
I do think Boston's interesting.
You've got some thoughts on Boston as well as maybe being a team that's going to struggle a little bit in this back half of the year.
Yeah, I have them as a loser. They're one of 2 teams that play only 3 games against these tanking 6. Toughest schedule in the East, remaining both by Basketball Reference and Tankathon. They've also had like pretty crazy good health this entire season. And then I know you guys are on the other side of this, but I don't really love the Vucevic pickup. I think he's going to potentially hurt the defense a little bit. He had a great first game for them, pretty bad second game. So you see him kind of both sides of that coin already. Before their game today, you could get them under 52.5 wins. That just seems really high. I know that the by the advanced net rating and all that has really liked them. I think there's a lot of paths between a tough schedule. They've been really healthy. They're integrating a guy who, in the long run, maybe Vucevic can, be a system guy and not really hurt them. But I do think there'll be some pains here and there. So I really like that under 52.5. And then I saw you made a note here, Matt, on the Knicks division price. I mean, huge. That was one of our earlier. We gave out that as a future of the week earlier. That was a huge win for our Knicks division bet today. The Knicks took care of business there. And I believe they're now tied. And the Knicks have a decent schedule, but Boston, an Eastern Conference schedule can only be so tough, but Boston's is pretty tough.
It's brutal because the Knicks are at a high point because they're just playing. They were at a low point and everyone was selling, and now they've played an amazing basketball.
Yeah.
But I do think probably getting the Knicks as the division winner is probably the way to go, mostly based off of, there's actually one more factor here, which is if Tatum comes back, that's such a huge wrench in things. Boston's going to be completely messed up for about a week and a half.
Jaylen Brown's going to be messed up the rest of the season. Like, he's going to be so pissed.
They're not going to know how to do this. So,
and like the Knicks stuff too, everybody was like, oh, the Knicks. Like, their bad month was 1 game under 500. Like, that was the bad month. That was like the month.
But I mean, to be fair, they really were shit. So
they were awful, but it was also, it's like we knew it wasn't like super surprising considering every team post cup is just ass.
Yeah.
They're just awful.
I don't see, but here's the thing is like, do I think that they are more that, or do I think that they're this team that is now elite defensively with Jalen Brunson on the floor?
Oh no, I don't think that's real. But like who knows?
I'll be somewhere in the middle. Jim also likes the Wizards no on 20+ wins at 61 cents. You can find it on Kalshi. I project them right now based off of their numbers at 23.5. If you take off 4 wins of that for just like they're going to actively try and lose, which is not a lot, then you're under here. So I don't blame you at all for getting in on Wizards no 20+ wins. I have some level of hope that they will establish themselves as like, okay, we're definitely keeping the pick. We're going to keep the pick.
And now we can actually play our guys the fourth.
And now we can actually like try and build some good habits, because I do think this shit is corrosive.
They actually, they won 3 of their last 6 games because they have some spunk to them. But
I get, it's not just because I have money on them. I genuinely am like, guys, like I did all this research. I'm going to be writing about this. Like, you can here's what's going to happen. You're going to draft Cam Boozer, and then he's going to be a 10-time All-Star and a Western or an Eastern Conference Finals MVP for someone else, not for you. But regardless, a few other bets before we hit best bets for the Monday slate. Victor Wembanyama, Defensive Player of the Year. He's back to the favorite, Jim, with 14 games missed. I think this is another chance to get in on no. I'm sorry, 4 more games.
You're a braver man than I am. This market has like, the Hulk and Loki meme. That is this market to me this year. I had this thing and I was like, I got outflanked over here. Then he came back. I'm staying away. It does seem like he probably will miss a game or 2 here or there, but like if he doesn't, I think they're going to want to hand it to him. So it really is like, does he miss? He has to miss 3 games, right?
I think that's one of the problems is like with everybody else, is he eligible? Yes. Okay. If eligible is like to be eligible is a certain percentage chance. And then if eligible, does he win is a certain percentage chance. And with Victor, is he eligible? Yes. Okay. 100% he's winning.
Handing it to him.
Yeah. Yeah. And like also too, I think you could make an argument that like Chet they tried to make Chet like the default other guy. And I don't think Chet has been like, I don't know, like he hasn't done anything that I'm like, wow, Chet. we need to give him this award.
Yeah.
Like, I'm more likely to go the Gobert route again, like, than I would be to go Chet. Like, I just feel like I'm not like super impressed with anything. Like, there's nothing that I see and I'm like, oh,
Every
it needs to
voter,
be Chet. You know?
every voter I've talked to, and like there are 100 voters, so it's not like I've talked to everybody. Okay,
Yeah.
so I can't give you like the consensus like majority is this, but I can just tell you anecdotally, every voter I've talked to thinks it's Rudy Gobert.
Wow.
That's how good he's been. He's just been like the numbers actually lean towards Chet a little bit in a lot of these instances, but everybody thinks it's Rudy.
Well,
And I do think that even if Victor slides over the 65 game mark, if Rudy's got an edge on him by 8 games, I think that could wind up mattering quite a bit.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I think the thing with Chet,
I see Jim being sucked back in.
What's his number right now? I mean, you can get a pretty good number on that, I think.
It's like 9-1 at least.
Yeah.
I think.
He's hung out in that same spot area. I think he's a lot closer than the market realizes.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's going to win because Victor Wembanyama is going to win if he's eligible, right? That's 100% because they're just like, look at all the blocks. Woo! But like Rudy Gobert is the most impactful defender in the NBA this season. Last one is, or real quick on this, Rockets division is down to plus 360. I kind of want to get in on this because this is such a good buy low spot. Like they're spiraling and they're going to there's going to be massive changes this summer. Their chemistry is terrible, horrible. Like Kevin Durant is pissed off at Alperen Şengün. Ime Udoka is pissed off at Alperen Şengün and Reed Shepherd. Alperen Şengün is pissed off that he's getting it from all angles. It's all bad. Yeah. They're also better than most teams. They just are. They're just better than most teams. And so like if San Antonio tails off at all, the Rockets at plus 360, that's a really good number, I think, on that division.
I mean, it's probably
it's a painful feeling buy low for sure.
It's also, I would say it's like a Wemby bet too, because like if Wemby gets hurt,
well, here's a really good way to put it. Think about how disappointing and frustrating and miserable the Rocket season has been, and how glorious and amazing and how everything has gone right for San Antonio. The Rockets are 3 games back in the loss column.
Yeah,
that's it. 3
and by adjusted net rating on dunks and threes, Houston's the better team.
Yeah. Now that's holding up the offense, which is cratered since Steven Adams went down because if they do not have offensive rebounds, that offense sucks.
He's not coming back either.
And he's not coming back. Last one's Lakers. The division moved on the Warriors not getting Giannis. So basically, when the Warriors didn't get Giannis, this thing moved on the deadline, and the market went towards Lakers. It's minus 200 now. I bet MGM, even with Luka's injury, he's not expected to miss significant time. He's out Monday, but not going to miss significant time. No on their division is 42 cents. But the more interesting one that I find is the Suns are plus 200 at BetMGM. And I have them projected a game behind the Los Angeles Lakers. Devin Booker and Jalen Green are both back. Finally, they lost their first game with them, which is what I would expect. Is for them to lose the first game when they're integrating new pieces back. This team still has the best chemistry, the best vibes, the best energy, a really good roster. Yeah. I kind of think this is a good buy low spot to get in on the Suns. I don't mind if you're not somebody that has entered the market, or if you have a position built on the Lakers rather, I would take a look at the Suns plus 200.
I like this. I think that the Suns seem to like have completely recalibrated. They have a roster full of like dudes that actually want to work together. I feel it's just not, I'm not trying to say anything about Kevin Durant, but I think that you just, by moving off of him and recalibrating the roster again around Booker, it feels like it's just a deeper rotation for everybody involved. So I think they've got a little bit of teeth, and then you get like the Dylan Brooks of it all, as Jim would say. Just as I mean, he just is he's a warrior, but I think he really sets the tempo on a nightly basis where you kind of get into the dregs of the season, and like some of the problems that you see with Minnesota, for example, I feel like you don't see that with Phoenix because you have Dylan Brooks as like we have to win, like it doesn't matter.
I was hoping they would pop as a team that plays bad teams a lot because they do great against bad teams. I think you summed it up perfect, Matt. It's like if you don't have a position, I feel like I'm already got a lot of Phoenix stuff and fading the Lakers a lot, and the Lakers just kind of keep winning. And I'm like, I don't believe it. I think it's gonna flip, but I'm so already in that camp that I'm not gonna add to it. But if you don't have any of that yet, I'm with you for sure.
Lakers' floor is a little bit higher than Phoenix's, is kind of the problem. I think the average leans a little bit towards Phoenix. But the Phoenix Suns are more likely to beat good teams than the Lakers, but they're also more likely to lose to bad teams than the Lakers. And the Lakers are just like, we are who we are. We're going to score a lot of points. You can score. If you hit a lot of shots, you can win. If you don't, you're probably going to lose. That's it. Okay. Let's do some best bets for Monday in the association. Let's start with Joe Dellera tonight. Joe, what's your 3-star bet of the night?
You're muted.
Damn it.
Not me! Not me!
My 3-star bet of the night is going to be on James Harden over 7.5 assists here against the Denver Nuggets. I like the spot for Harden. I think the 7.5 is a little bit light given what he did in his debut. He had 8 dimes against the Kings in a game they had even though they won by 6, but they were still pretty under control. I would say the majority of that game. He had 8 assists on 11 potential, still passed the ball 49 times. So I think that was pretty significant here. I like the opportunity against Denver. I think that this is a spot where they've kind of given up a pretty big assist games relatively recently. Cade had double-doubles in a couple consecutive games. Luka had a 10 assist game recently as well. So I like that. And I also think that it gives the Cavs some other things to look at. I think they probably want to see some more of these minutes where Harden is running the offense, let Donovan play a little bit off ball, get a little bit more rest. And the fact that Harden can pass to Mitchell to just close out a possession is also great. So I think it's a good opportunity here. Plus the Nuggets have been relatively weak on the interior towards centers. So I do think it's a good pick and roll combo with Jared Allen, which we should see plenty of in this matchup as well. So I like Harden to go over the 7.5. And before he had gotten traded, he had 9 assists on 17 potentials against Denver, basically just right before he got traded anyway.
Yeah, so Denver doesn't run as much at level coverage anymore. They always had problems with Harden for a variety of reasons. They play more drop now, which is bad. Their biggest weakness is the corner 3. Their second biggest weakness is the lob. They don't know how to stop that. They just can't. It's very difficult to stop a lob when your center does not jump. So if he just sits there and that's all he does. And the Val is the exact same way. So this is a great play. I would bet Jared Allen's been on a tear and they're going to keep feeding him. I would bet that Harden's going to get 4 lobs to Allen alone in this game. Yeah. They only ran 4 pick and rolls for Harden in his first game versus the Kings. Kings coverage is a lot bit different, though. They switch. So that's entirely different. You're going to see a lot more opportunities for James Harden to get downhill in this game. I'd expect him to play against Valanciunas more. That's an equally bad matchup. Jared Allen is going to smash in this game. And then if they do bring help, if they do manage to bring some help over, which they won't because they don't have Aaron Gordon and they don't have Peyton Watson, they've got no rim protection. Spencer Jones is out with a concussion / they don't want to pay him yet until they absolutely have to. They have no forwards, which means that you have guards. This is one of the problems they have. It's Bruce Brown and Jamal Murray trying to guard the dunker spot and the corner 3. Guess where Harden murders you? Passing to the lob in the corner 3. Great play by Dellera. I'm all over this. This is a great play on James Harden over 7.5 assists. Jim Turvey, your 3-star play of the night.
I'll keep it relatively brief because you guys already made a lot of the case for me. It is Jarrett Allen
Let's
over
go.
2.5 points. It's a perfect little same game parlay here. I think these will be highly correlated. I don't think it's any surprise that Harden's first game, Jarrett Allen scored 29 points, 11 for 12, just getting spoon-fed by Harden there. He also had 40 points 2 games ago. When Mobley's out, his usage definitely goes up. With Mobley out, he's also going to have to play more minutes. It has a spread of, I believe, 1. At last I saw, Cavs were favored by 1. This should be a close game. Allen's the type of guy whose minutes actually do vary pretty notably in terms of it's a blowout or a close game. I think he should get pretty big minutes with A, being a close game, B, with no Mobley. And I think he'll be out there with James Harden quite a bit. And that combo is really looking good in game 1. So I don't think these 14.5s are going to be around much longer. I think he's going to be posting some pretty nice points totals here. You guys pointed out the interior defense of Denver, not the best. So yeah, I think Jared Allen's going to have a really big game. I think it's going to pair real nicely with that Harden assist. And I think that's a real fun same game parlay for you.
Yeah, it's already 15.5 at FanDuel. So if you're watching this live with us at youtube.com/The Action Network, go scouring to find the best odds on Jared Allen. I'm going to start building a same game parlay because this has got me excited now. Let's go to Joe Dellera for his 2 and 1 star plays of the night.
So my 2-star play is Isaac Okoro under 13.5 points plus rebounds. He just went over this against Denver. I specifically actually didn't play it against Denver. I played it against the Raptors the game before. He had 12 and just shot like perfectly, really. And Denver, I didn't want to play it because of some of the things that Matt and I and Jim just talked about in terms of their coverage. Here, this is a matchup against the Brooklyn Nets, who actually do a decent job of limiting, 3-point opportunities. They're decent. They kind of allow some of the looks in the corner, but overall, they also play at like a much slower pace here. The big thing for me with Okoro is while Chicago's dealing with a variety of players, either in or out, traded, doubtful, whatever. They did add some other ball dominant, high usage players that are really all trying to kind of carve out their role, I would say. And a lot of them are not going to be super interested in passing the ball to Isaac Okoro. You have Anthony Simons, Colin Sexton, Jaden Ivey, Dillingham. Like, there's all dudes that only care about getting their own. And Okoro is not somebody that can get his own. He's somebody that kind of needs to be fed the basketball. And he's not even a great rebounder either. So I like adding the rebounds here for the combo prop. His 3.5 line, I think you could even play that too at under 3.5 rebounds if that's available to you. He has only had 3. He's really only had more than 2 in 2 of his last 8 games. Or 2 of his last 10 games rather. So I just don't think that there's enough opportunity for Okoro in this Bulls offense. And Chicago is also like, they're still a little weird. I feel like they don't really know which direction they're going in because they always think that they can win the NBA championship through the 10 seed in the play-in tournament. And if they're in a competitive game, Okoro we've seen get like benched down the stretch. So, but then at the same time, if they're blowing a team out, he's also not somebody that's getting the minutes in the blowout. So I think there's just a lot of ways to have downward trajectory for Okoro. So I like the under 13.5 points plus rebounds here. And then for my 1-star play, I'm on Desmond Bane over 18.5 points. You can take 20 plus 2 if it goes that way. He's just kind of been on a bit of a heater lately. He's hit this in 7 of 10 games, or really 8 of 10 games on the 18.5, averaging 20.3 points per game. I think we're getting a little bit of a discount here because Franz is on the report as questionable. I would read this that Franz is not going to play until after the All-Star break. I mean, Orlando has done stupid things with him, like even bothering to play him in Germany when I guess he was just not healthy at all. But at this point, I think it just makes sense. Just hold him out through the All-Star break, and we shouldn't have really any issues. Here, the matchup against Milwaukee, I think, is strong. He, in his only other game against them, in his over the last couple of seasons, he had 22 against them last year, but I think that they've been relatively weak to spot up shooters over the course of the entire season. And for Bane, with what his shot profile is, not only can he pull up from 3, he can also attack you at the rim too. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for Desmond Bane, who has kind of fallen into a better role, I think, in a better usage situation over the past couple of weeks for Orlando. So I like Desmond Bane to score here.
The Okoro one I'm a little bit nervous about. The Bulls just shoot so many threes. That's their entire game plan. And I will say, like, Colin Sexton, I really like the player that Collins turned into. In that first game, I watched that because it was him versus the Nuggets. He was like, he just met these guys and like had his arms around them, huddling them up, like getting them organized, and was like, they were getting into fights, and he was like, hey, or getting frustrated with the officials, and he's like, hey, move on. Right? Like real like leadership stuff, like a little bit of like a floor general point. Like I really like, I'm really Colin Sexton right now. And Okoro just takes so many. He's like their leader on corner threes that they have left. It's him and Gershon Yabusele. Now the Nets are going to switch everything, so that's less of a concern. So I think you're probably safe there because the Nets are just not going to help off, and they're just going to let you get to the rim and score because they're tanking. But all right. Jim Turvey, your 2 and your 1 star.
Yeah, my 2 star is LeBron James under 22.5 points. Obviously, the thought here, I think people would be looking towards the over. No Luka, but this is a really tough matchup in the OKC Thunder. Obviously, no Shea, but pretty much the rest of the team's back. That defense is very, very good. And And the bigger thing here is that LeBron's usage actually doesn't jump as much as you'd imagine with Luka off. And then Austin Reeves should be seeing his minutes slowly increase. So I mean, we saw no Luka last game. LeBron went under this number. We saw no Luka a few weeks back. LeBron went under this number. And those were not in matchups nearly as tough as this OKC matchup. He's played 3 games this year without Luka. He did go over it in the first one. He had 23, but he's hovering around this number in each of these games, and this is easily the toughest matchup of the bunch. I think that anytime you can get an under on a LeBron points prop, you're probably baking in a tiny bit of edge just off of probably one of the more popular props you're going to find out there. LeBron, amazing at his age to be doing what he's doing, but the scoring just isn't quite there. A really tough matchup. I'm going to go with the under on that. And then final one star, I'm going with another under. I'm going to DeMar DeRozan. We can actually, I was guessing it was going to be 23.5 PRA. We even got 24.5 PRA. So this is excellent. We can go with the under. I saw the chat shouting out Nick Clifford. I definitely play some Nick Clifford stuff too. Nick Clifford. Those two kind of correlate. The Kings have moved towards playing these young guys who I think actually is kind of like a fun young squad. If I knew for sure that they were going to go all in on it, I might look to bet them in some games eventually. Against the Pelicans here, there's just a lot of unknowns on all sides of who's trying and all that. But DeMar DeRozan is one of these guys who has lost big minutes in a lot of these games. I mean, if you scroll through his minutes log, it's kind of all over the place, but he's got games with 20 minutes, 18 minutes, 18 minutes. Even if he gets to that 30 range, I mean, he was there last game. He went well under this. He had a very bad shooting game. He went 2 for 12 from 2. You won't see that often from DeRozan. But the bigger point being here with Sacramento, that they're just kind of moving away from these older guys being the point of focus, which they should have done a long time ago. But hey, they're doing it now. Credit to them. Partly because they have some pretty interesting young guys. It makes it easier to do that pivot when you have some guys like Clifford, like Cardwell, like Reynaud, like Carter. There's just like a kind of an interesting little squad here. So there's a lot of paths to this under. It could be, a bad shooting game. It could be a blowout. It could be giving the minutes to the young guys. So my 1 star is DeMar DeRozan under 24.5 PRA.
Okay. I like those plays as well. King's definitely going to be playing the young guys here on out. That's a really sneaky good player by Jim Turvey. I have a same game for us to put together for the Nuggets game. Okay. Jared Allen over 15.5 points. James Harden, A+ assists. Those are both best bets from Jim and Joe. Cavaliers money line. This Nuggets team is probably not. They have struggled with Cleveland overall, and are just not really equipped to deal with the Cavaliers onslaught. Jalen Tyson, 2+ made threes. He is their leader in 3-point attempts from the corner this season, and he's shooting 48% from 3-point range from the corner. And then there's this over 235.5. You ready for this stat, Jim Turvey? You ready for this that I'm about to drop it on you?
Very.
When Nikola Jokic plays this season and Aaron Gordon does not. So that's as simple as it is. Jokic plays, AG does not. The over is 20-4.
Wow, that's good.
What is that?
83%, 20-4 when Nikola Jokic plays and Aaron Gordon does not. And if you're like, why? The answer is Aaron knows how to cover for Jokic. And so he knows how to direct the other guys to be like, you got to shrink in here. You can't, like, Jokic's not going to come that wide. You got to shrink in here. Or you got to be able to play it. He knows the tendencies. He's played so much with Nikola that he knows how to cover for those kind of things. 20-4 is the
What's
over.
The number? This is going to be a pretty good number too,
Wow.
right?
235.5.
Or sorry, what's the same game parlay? What does it come out to?
This is a five legger, but it's all correlated. We're at 898. We're about 9-1.
All right. I don't hate that at all.
That's
All right.
solid. Yeah.
I'm gonna hit that. You can find me on Twitter at HB Basketball. I'm gonna hit that through Playbook, which is our AI bot that will actually, if you give it an image of a bet that you want, it will just pull it in there. So whether you pull it from the Action Network app or anywhere from an article, if you just like feed that to it, it's gonna be like, here you go, and it'll shop it out for you to find the best odds. So use that at Playbook. That's going to do it for Best Bets. Jim Turvey's at Turvey Bets and at Roto Grinders. Joe Dellera is at the Cash That Podcast at Joe Dellera. David Payne is our esteemed producer who's done such great work on NFL this season. So a big applaud for David for making it through football season. Now you just got to deal with us adding another 9 buckets to your slate, because we are, by the way, after All-Star, not this coming week, but the week after, we are adding a Friday show for buckets live on Friday nights. Thanks for hanging out with us in the chat. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe. Let us know that you like the show. Hit me up at HB Basketball. Appreciate the folks that have already reached out and told me that they like the show. Helps me out a lot. You guys have yourselves a great week. We'll see you guys then tomorrow night, 11 Eastern, for live buckets. Until next time, let's get buckets. 20-4. Damn.